I'm different to David Bowie, Mick Jagger, Rod Stewart, Freddie Mercury, Mark Bolan, Roger Daltrey. They can all move around the stage with a microphone. I'm stuck at a 9-foot piano.
It's 50 years since Elton John launched his amazing career.
Senor Elton John, I am loving your music.
I'm David Walliams, and I'm lucky enough to be friends with one of the world's greatest artists. And tonight, I'm going to find out how some of his best-loved songs came about.
And when you say you wrote it quickly, how quickly?
15 minutes.
Wow.
Instead of going to Sainsbury's that day, I decided to write to that.
We'll also hear from some of Elton's most famous fans.
He's definitely a page in the history books, which is what any musician wants to be.
And he always looks awesome.
When he plays, it's like Mozart.
I'd hire him.
I love the guy. Love you.
And at the end of the show, I'll reveal to Elton which of his classic tracks has been crowned the nation's favourite in our Top 20 countdown.
It's difficult. Elton's got a lot of good songs.
It's not every day you get to meet one of the campest men in Britain.
Creep horn?
But for Elton, that day has finally come.
Yay!
Sir Elton John has been creating musical works of art for over half a century. And tonight, we'll discover the secrets behind the songs of one of the world's biggest-selling solo artists in a defining year in his life.
It's hard to believe you turned 70 this year.
I did indeed, yes. I don't feel 70.
It was 1967 when Elton famously answered a record label ad looking for budding songwriters. By the fate of the musical gods, this would lead to his pairing with lyricist Bernie Taupin, and the start of a partnership that would give us some of the best-loved songs of all time.
I answered that ad, and I was kind of, you know, not exactly a rock and roll looking kind of guy, and I was very, very shy. So why I answered it, I don't know. Every time I think about it, it gives me goosebumps.
Well, you have to put yourself in my shoes of being a 17-year-old fish out of water. But he was so genuinely friendly from the get-go. It was a good fit straight away.
Together, Bernie and Elton would go on to create a chapter in the history of music. But which Elton John song will come out top in our exclusive poll?
I'm Still Standing.
Sorry seems to be the hardest word.
Don't Go Breaking My Heart.
Rocket Man.
They're all classics.
Now, the nation has been asked what is their favourite Elton John song.
Right.
What do you think is going to come out on top?
10 years ago, I'd have said maybe your song. I'm not so sure anymore. Can I make a bet?
Okay. What do you think it is?
Candle in the Wind.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Our countdown begins with a song written about an emotional turning point in Elton's life.
When I think of those East End lights, muggy nights, the curtains drawn in the little room downstairs.
So we're going to start with Someone Saved My Life tonight. Now, this is a very personal song for you. What was going on in your life at the time?
I was living with Bernie in Islington with a girlfriend, and we'd arranged to get married for some stupid reason, I don't know why. And we'd been out with my friend, Long John Baldry, to a club in Carnaby Street.
We've all gone crazy lately.
Long John Baldry, I always speak for both of us, a great influence on our lives. Human being, one of the best. Singer, one of the best. Instrumental in bringing blues to the UK audience.
And someone saved my life tonight, Sugar Bear.
Who privately was wonderfully gay. Just proud of who he was. Don't forget, before '67, it was totally illegal. So I think Elton learnt a few things from Long John.
Hypnotized, sweet freedom whispered in my ear.
We got absolutely hammered, and he said, you know, you're making a crazy mistake. And I thought, yeah, you're absolutely right. And we came back, and I just put my head in a gas oven with the windows open. It was a cry for help.
7 years later, that desperate cry for help became the inspiration for this song, the only single to be taken from Elton and Bernie's autobiographical album, Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy.
The whole album is about him and I. It's all about our songwriting journey and our life together before we became famous. It's a beautiful song.
Someone save my life tonight.
It seems like it's really about getting out of a bad relationship, but I think what it's really about is saving the dream of his music. It's just beautiful, it's dramatic, it's profoundly moving.
At number 19, a song dedicated to American sporting legend Billie Jean King, one of the greatest female tennis players of all time.
She's such an inspiring woman. Spend 5 minutes with her and you want to conquer the world. And I'm kind of similar in that respect, but she's amazing.
If the cause is right, I'd leave, find the answer on the road.
2 weeks before the King Riggs match, Jerry Parencho, who was the promoter of the match, had a party. And I asked Jerry, I go, Jerry, is this party for you or what? He says, no, it's for Elton John. I went, Elton John, he's my favorite. Are you kidding? So the whole night, we're looking across at each other. And finally, his manager, Tony King, comes over and looks at me and goes, Elton's been dying to meet you all night. He sits me across from Elton. Elton, this is Billie. Billie, this is Elton. Start talking. And so we started talking. We hit it off like that. I didn't realize it until that night. He loved tennis. We're going to a concert one day together, and we're sitting in the back, and he goes, I want to write you a song. And I'm like, what? I want to write a song for you. What are we going to call it? I'm like, I don't know.
If it's going to be a song for her, it's going to be called the Philadelphia Freedoms, because that was the team she was on. And at that time, the music coming out of Philadelphia was music that I loved. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, 3 Degrees, Spinners, and it sounded like a Philadelphia record.
The thought of it meant everything. I mean, I didn't care what it sounded like. I was going to love it. And he played it for me. I could tell he was so nervous I wouldn't like it. And he says, when I go, Philadelphia like that, it means yes when you're upset with the umpire. You're stomping over to the umpire like this.
Song, brilliant, strong. And then you think about Billie Jean, then you think about Elton, and it's just, yes, you did it.
It's about relationships, about friendship. These are times I'll never forget, ever.
"40 years on, Philadelphia Freedom still goes down a storm when Elton plays live. As does the song next in our countdown at number 18.
Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting. That's a real rocker.
Elton is capable of such an aggressive vocal. For somebody who's known for, you know, quite lush sounds, suddenly he's like belting it on that track.
Don't give me none of your aggravation. I'm tired of your discipline. Saturday night's all right for fighting. You get a little action.
I mean, I've gone out on Saturday nights feeling exactly like that.
I think there's a myth that's sort of grown up around that song. I mean, was it really inspired by my rowdy youth in Lincolnshire? I'm not really sure if it was or not. I'm sure it had some sort of input.
Saturday
Nobody rocks out like Elton. Nobody rocks out like Elton. And when he does that, I just want to jump up on the stage with him and jump on his back.
It's that magic moment at any concert for the person on stage and the people in the audience. And, you know, we're all after.
I've seen Elton live dozens of times. In fact, he's played over 4,000 concerts in 80 different countries. For me, it's always an amazing experience, and I'm not the only one who thinks so.
As a live performer, Sir Elton John is amazing, okay?
He gives his all. He's funny, humorous, like I am. We're very similar. The only thing is she's stuck at the piano and I can move about.
Here's a guy that exploded on stage. He took that instrument that wasn't supposed to be sexy and made it sexy. There are pictures of him from the era where he looks literally airborne.
He'd be jumping on top of the piano and sort of doing almost, not quite handstands, but he really made you notice him.
He wasn't just animated, you know, he would kick the stool out of the way. He was one of my true inspirations.
He's a master at his craft, and of course, on stage, his presence is unreal.
I've stolen a few things off him. It's rock and roll.
I grew up watching Little Richard, Jerry Lee Lewis. Little Richard stood up and played the piano. Jerry Lee Lewis leapt off it, and I thought, that's for me. Because if you're stuck there, visually you have to try and do something and make it different. I was always very envious of other artists because they could move around the stage. Now I'm 70, I'm not so envious of them because I'm glad I'm sitting at the piano. Yeah. But I had to make the best of what I had.
And that's just the beginning of our celebration of the very best of Elton John. Coming up, find out which Elton hit was almost a near miss.
I went, release it.
Release it at once!
Elton John recorded his first album in 1969, but it was a year later that his career really started to take off with a trip across the pond and a residency at a legendary Los Angeles nightclub.
I got the big kick in America first. Although I was beginning to get a reputation in Britain, it all happened in America first.
When you arrived in America, were you already well known?
No, not at all. We'd been doing shows in England and around Europe, but I went to the Troubadour in August of 1970, and we kicked ass. And I think that was, people went, oh my God.
Who walked me down to church when I'm 60 years of age?
Really was an invasion. Nobody expected that, but boy, they took care of business on him. God enabled him to put his personality and stamp on the music he played. Thank God we got him on this planet.
He just tore the place up. After the end of the first week, I was driving back to LA airport, and I turned the radio on, and I heard the DJ say, there's a new messiah in town. His name is Elton John.
Since those first shows at the Troubadour, Elton has gone on to sell over 300 million records. But which is the nation's favorite? Our countdown continues at number 17.
My first memory of Elton John was I thought he was Russian because the first thing I saw was him in the Nikita video. And I was like, who's this Russian dude?
Nikita, is it cold? In your little corner of the world.
I was like, he must be really talented. I was only 7, to be honest. I was like, who's this Russian guy with the hot girlfriend?
Never find a warmer soul to know.
As time went on, I learned more about him, and I realized that maybe some of that was, you know, fictional. But I was still left with a love and passion for the man and his music.
With eyes that looked.
This classic Cold War love song is the first of 2 Elton John tracks tonight to call on the vocal talents of the late, great George Michael.
On Nikita, you will never know
What really topped it off for me was George at the end. He said, I've got an idea. Elton was like, go for it. And he went out and just did it at the end, which is crazy good. That's when you realize how good somebody is.
I have a soft spot for that song, but you know what song I love that came out in like the 2000s was Are You Ready? Are You Ready for Love? The one that they sort of reinvented.
Well, here it is, Chris, at number 16.
One of the great pleasures of being a fan of Elton is that you can go 2, 3, 4 levels deep on his work and find stuff that you might have missed the first time. And Are You Ready for Love is one of his great tracks.
Catch a star if you can. Wish for something special. Let it be me.
Tom Bell had been one of the great songwriter-producers of the early 1970s, and people know his great work with artists from Philadelphia. Elton's love of Tom Bell was genuine, so it seemed natural when he was having a little break from working with Bernie to work with Tom Bell.
I'll write a symphony just for you and me.
Are You Ready for Love narrowly missed the UK Top 40 when it was first released in 1979. But 2 decades later, a dance remix would give it a second stab at chart success.
I hadn't heard the original of Are You Ready for Love? And once I'd heard the record, straight away I was attracted to it, being a big fan of Philadelphia soul music. It's basically taking the elements that really make the track work. Now, for me, there was a brilliant rhythmic pattern of the congas and the chorus. So I stripped it back. Whether or not Elton was worried that I took away most of the song, I personally didn't expect it to go to number 1. And when it did get to number 1, it was like champagne all round, you know.
Are you ready? Are you ready for love?
That song, which had been sort of pulled out of the archives, was suddenly a radio hit in summer of 2003. I just remember everybody was so happy it existed.
Are you ready? Are you ready for love?
It was a very special time for me with my band going over to the UK, and we were just starting out. And I really do think that song paved the way for my band. That's the most special single to me, probably, just because of that memory.
Staying with the Philadelphia sound is our next track. Bet you can guess it from the first chord.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. It was so classic American R&B.
Hey, kids, shaking this together. Let's find out something. You know to change the weather. We'll kill the fatty cow. The lights out. Stick around.
This you didn't want to release as a single.
No, I didn't. I'd had Saturday Night's All Right for Fighting and Goodbye Yellow Brick Road as singles, and I wanted Candle in the Window. And the Americans said, no, we want Benny and the Jets. And I said, I don't see that as a single. And I kind of fought my corner for about 2 weeks. And then they rang me up one day and said, how about me telling you it's the #1 R&B record, i.e. black record in Detroit? I went, release it.
Release it! Release it at once!
Because for me, to have a black radio station playing my music was just incredible. And of course, I was proved totally wrong. For a white boy from Pinner, that's the ultimate accolade for me, because that's the music I love the best. And it got me on Soul Train. Yay!
I'll never forget how much I cried when I listened to that song over and over and over again. It's majestic and soulful and rock and roll and everything all at the same time. I'm still probably ripping off Benny and the Jets on some level.
Next, a hit from 1990 that would give Elton his first ever UK solo #1.
It's an important song because around the same time it's when you got heavily involved with your charity work with the Elton John AIDS Foundation.
The AIDS Foundation was started at a table, at my kitchen table in Atlanta, and now it's 25 years old. We've come a long way.
It's a human sign when things go wrong.
Sacrifice marked a sort of newer, more mature Elton. It's heartbreaking. The words are very powerful, and it just touches you.
Into the boundary.
Sacrifice, for some reason, it sums up an entire decade of music. It's a very well-written song.
Heart done by you. Some things left better, baby. Just passing through.
Why did you want to get so involved in that particular cause?
During the 80s, a lot of my friends, lots of my friends died of AIDS. And I really didn't get my fingers and my hands dirty. I was a gay man. And I can't really remember why I didn't. I think I was probably too much of a drug addict or too self-obsessed, and I was very ashamed of that. After I got sober, I decided that it would be wonderful to start an AIDS Foundation and give back, because I just wanted to atone for the absence of my actions during that whole crisis. So I started doing singles and giving the money to the AIDS Foundation. So music was the first thing that kicked it off, and that's why I did it. I felt ashamed.
Since 1992, the Elton John AIDS Foundation has raised almost £300 million in the fight against the disease.
What the Elton John Foundation has done globally in terms of saving people's lives, raising awareness about the pandemic, is extraordinary. You talk to senators, you talk to politicians, you know, everybody and anyone. In terms of advocacy, there's no one like Elton John.
Sacrifice spent 5 weeks at the top of the charts and came from one of the most prolific and successful songwriting partnerships in music history.
I feel it only fair that I should introduce Bernie Taupin, who never really faces his public.
It's 50 years since you've been writing with Bernie Taupin. How would you describe your relationship with him?
Quite amazing. I mean, I have to say, as a songwriter, I have it a little bit easier because I have the lyrics come to me first. And by some God-given gift, I'm very good at writing music to lyrics.
And without Bernie, there wouldn't be any songs anyway.
Well, the one thing that hasn't changed and has remained the same since day one is really the way we write, which is kind of unusual.
Elton and Bernie write backwards. Bernie will give Elton some lyrics.
And then Elton would just put the music on top. I mean, how beautiful is that? How simple is that?
I've tried to write his way, and I can't do it. I can't write 2 words. I have to write the music first.
I mean, we've never, ever had an argument over music or anything else. There have been times in our relationships when I'm sorry, he disapproved of my behavior, and he told me.
It certainly doesn't feel like 50 years. I'd be lying if I said we didn't have our highs and our lows, but it's been one hell of a ride.
And it's another Elton and Bernie classic at number 13 in our countdown.
What Elton's really good at is just coming up with those really heartfelt chords that just sit beautifully in your ear. Like you hear the opening piano to Sorry Seems the Hardest Word, and it's like you're there.
What am I gonna do to make you love me? What have I gotta do to make you care?
The best songs are really simple. They just say what they need to say. And, you know, everybody can relate to that song. Just what have I got to do to make you love me? What have I got to do to be heard? I mean, it's not Shakespeare, but it's poignant.
What do I do to make you want me? What have I gotta do to be heard?
I've known Elton a long time, and I think where Elton goes to sort his emotions out is the piano.
Sorry seems to be the hardest word.
At the time, Elton had had a setback in his album sales. Blue Moves did not sell as well as the predecessors. It was just one of those periods when the lemons all lined up, and Bernie and Elton were both unhappy at the same time. And I went to this gig, and there's Elton looking sad on the stage. This was not one of the big show business productions.
Sorry seems to be the hardest word.
He was obviously very unhappy that night. For a start, he was wearing a very wrong outfit. He was wearing black leather with a black beret on. I remember thinking, that's not it at all.
And then Elton makes a remark.
I've made a decision tonight. This is going to be the last show. All right? So, there's a lot more to me than playing on the road. And this is the last one I'm going to do.
When we heard it, it was like, did he just say I've quit? You know, that's the last concert? And it was like, yeah, he did say that.
We'd had numerous albums just go number one, number one, number one. He'd filled the biggest stadiums, and you get to a point where you know you can only go so far.
What have I gotta do?
Elton has clarified on many occasions there was no animosity.
It was strange and it was odd, but we never ever broke up. We gave each other the leeway to write with other people, which I think enhanced and saved our relationship.
Sir Elton Hercules John was born Reginald Kenneth Dwight on the 25th of March 1947 at his grandparents' home in Pinner, Middlesex. It was at the age of 3 that he first sat at the piano and astonished his family by playing music by ear. By his early teens, this musical prodigy was honing his talent at the Royal Academy of Music, where he studied for 4 years. Elton began his career in the pubs and clubs of northwest London, but dreamt of something more.
I was a young kid in a band, getting fed up with playing to people in cabaret, and I thought, what else can I do?
I used to get him session work, and he demoed a song for me, and I played it to Ron Richards, who was the Hollies producer, and Ron booked him to do the Hollies. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. He had a great ability to play beautiful piano.
I mean, I learned piano from an early age. My mum forced me to learn it, and I hated it in many ways, because playing Mozart's sonata and F-sharp minor is not something you can play to your mates. But always had a piano at home, and I've always loved playing his songs.
Elton came along and played in a completely different style that hadn't been heard before. And I liked him right away. As soon as I heard his stuff, I liked him. This guy's good.
And it's that unique piano sound that's coming up next at number 12.
I love the chord progression. I love the key it's in. I love the way he sings it. I aspire to write songs like that.
When are you gonna come down? When are you going to land? I should have stayed on the phone.
When I first moved to New York City and just had not a lot, I had a record player. I'd just find used records for, you know, as cheap as I could get them, just so I could have some music. And Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, that was when I really first started listening to Elton. He's just got soul.
This boy's too young to be singing the blues.
Like a lot of poetic lyrics, they suggest more than they state. And so they create a world and a series of flashing images through the song.
So goodbye, Yellow Brick Road, where the dogs of society howl. You can't let me in your penthouse.
It's very American. Obviously, Bernie must have some infatuation with the Wild West.
I wanted to grow up in the American heartland, So I think it's me inventing me as a character who was raised in America.
So it's goodbye to the yellow brick road. And time to find out the truth behind one of Elton's most enigmatic songs at number 11 in our countdown.
It's one of those songs that, like, I love songs that put you in a moment.
I can see the red tail lights heading for Spain.
Hearing that line, you could see the tail lights, you could see Daniel waving goodbye, and it's like, that's really cool when a song does that to you.
Oh, it looks like Daniel.
The lyrics are so mysterious. It's telling you a story, but you have to kind of fill in the blanks yourself.
Daniel, you know, for me was a gay anthem.
Spain is pretty, though I've never been.
I don't know what it was about, but I figured it must be about some sort of gay relationship.
Let me tell you about Daniel, because there's a lot of misconceptions. I wrote that song after reading a story in Time magazine about the soldiers coming home from Vietnam, and some of them just wanted to forget it. It was a younger brother talking about his older brother who was suffering from a really bad experience.
I've no clue it was about Vietnam. And I'm sticking with my story.
You see more than I. Daniel, you're a star.
That takes me back to spending time with my dad. That's the song that I can specifically remember him enjoying, and, you know, you can't repay people for those kind of memories.
Daniel was one of Elton and Bernie's more gentle ballads. But within just a year of its release, Elton John had transformed himself into one of pop's most outrageous stars.
This is a particularly sexy one. What is actually going on here?
Well, it's what's coming off here. That's how I hit America, more or less.
Why did you get into dressing up?
As a kid, I wasn't really allowed to wear pointed-toe shoes or chisels, so in my 20s, I exploded.
Looking back over the years, Elton has been the most flamboyant person in terms of costumes, headwear, hairpieces, everything.
I remember thinking it was quite Liberace, you know, glamorous, over the top. As a kind of onlooker, I was like, ooh, I want some of that.
I've seen him dressed as Louis XIV, and I loved him in the Who movie, Tommy. I could never get away with any of that.
Well, it's what we all did then, you know, anything to cause a stir. And I thought I was being shocking with just a fur boa tied round me, you know.
He could come out as Marilyn Monroe for all I care, but the duck outfit, that tops him all.
I have to say that.
What is the thinking here?
He said, "You're going to be Donald Duck," and I said, "Fabulous." But the thing is, the bum was so big that I couldn't sit down on my seat and play the piano.
It's weird how famous this still is, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah. The freedom to do the clothes was just fabulous because, you know, I'm not the normal rock and roll looking star. I'm not svelte. I'm not, you know, leopard skin outfit like Rod, who looks so fabulous with the hair and everything. So I had to do my own thing.
And at number 10 in our countdown, it's a rock and roll classic that's always given Elton a platform for his flamboyant fashion. Ooh, nice shoes.
I remember when rock was young. Me and Susie had so much fun. Holding hands and screaming stone. Had an old gold Chevy and a place of my own.
Well, you can't go wrong with Crocodile Rock. It's a masterpiece.
When I think of a Crocodile Rock,
The most important record in making Elton a pop act was Crocodile Rock. That was his first American #1.
One of Elton's most memorable performances of this song took place in front of 16,000 fans in September 1973.
I happened to be in America because I was working for Apple Records, and I just arrived, literally, and I got a phone call. Can you come to the Hollywood Bowl? So I got in a car. Next thing you know, I'm on stage. I introduced Linda Lovely. She introduced Elton.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the Hollywood Bowl. The gentleman you've all been waiting for, the biggest, most colossal, Elton John.
Elton came on, feathers, sequins, boots, the whole thing. And then these 5 pianos opened to spell Elton. And inside the piano were all these doves that were meant to go shh. They were all fast asleep.
Our manager, he went absolutely nuts because the doves just wouldn't fly out.
And then people were getting them and throwing them in the air, so these poor birds were kind of waking up mid-air. Oh, I suppose I better fly then.
Throughout his career, Elton John has collaborated with dozens of emerging stars, keeping his finger firmly on the pulse.
When I hear something new, or I see a new photograph, or a new painting, or a new play, or a film, it's something creative that makes you feel, God, I wish I could have done that. I'm still a fan. I'm still like the little boy who grew up in Pinner that wanted to go to the cinema every week, wanted to buy a record every week. And I've never lost that. And it's harder now for new artists to make that impression. And that affirmation from someone who's older, and a lot older, can sometimes mean, yeah, we're doing the right thing.
I got a phone call. It came up as a no caller ID. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be like a PPI claim or something, you know? I was like, cool, who's this? And hello. And he basically just called me to say how much he liked my music. And I don't know if he realizes what that means to someone like me.
Elton definitely was part of my influence becoming a musician, especially in songwriting. You know, his championing of, like, me or Gaga. He's been part of so many people's journeys. My earliest memory of hearing him, I think, was, I guess that's why they call it the blues. And it's just that piano, and the way that it kind of slides into it.
I'll always remember that opening bit from, I guess that's why they call it the blues, and sat with my stepdad, and we both come in at the same time and do Don't Wish It Away. Don't wish it away. Don't look at it like it's forever. Those first years of my teenage years, he was played a lot in our house. I could honestly say that things can only get better.
I was 14. And I just split up with my boyfriend, and it was that thing where I just listened to it over and over and over again, just like putting it on repeat and weeping, putting it on repeat, weeping.
Before you went there. My first kiss was actually to Guess That's Why They Call It the Blues. So I remember that very clearly. You're not getting any more. That's it. I guess that's why they call it the blues. Time on.
There's quite a lengthy solo section, and so what should it be? The idea came from Chris Thomas, who was our producer. He said, how about getting Stevie Wonder?
So I got hold of Stevie. He said, yeah, sure, that'd be great. He came down and he just got up on the microphone, played his harmonica. One take, boom.
Thanks, Stevie. And at number 8, all rise for a song that recovered from a remarkably cool start.
How hard is it for you to predict which of your songs are going to be hits? And
I'm terrible at it. One of them was Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. And I remember writing it in the morning, and my drummer, Nigel Olsen, we were sharing a cabin. He was asleep, and I was downstairs writing, which must have annoyed him.
I can't lie. No more of your darkness.
I woke up and heard him playing around with chords and sequences and stuff. And I left him for a little bit, and then I went downstairs and I said, that is a #1 record right there.
I'm growing tired, and time stands still before me.
When we finished recording it, I said to Gus Dudgeon, my producer, I don't think that's a hit. I don't really want it on the album even. And he said, you're crazy. And everybody else thought I was crazy. And of course, it became one of my most famous songs.
I have such vivid memories of being a kid and just having, like, huge, epic family sing-alongs, really belting out Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. For me and for my family, his music's woven into kind of the fabric of music that I experienced growing up.
Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me also became a famous duet for you with George Michael.
He made that song something else. It was already a classic song, but he put his mark on it and did the most wonderful version of it live in Chicago.
There's this incredible moment where George Michael goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Elton John."
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Elton John.
Doo, 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 and the whole place goes,
Start me.
They complimented each other, he and George. I don't think anybody else could have done that song but the two of them.
The music world has been paying tributes to George Michael, who died last night from suspected heart failure at the age of just 53.
You know, with George gone, it's changed the meaning of the song.
When you sing it now, does it bring back memories of him? And is that
All the
difficult?
time. As soon as I start singing the song, a picture of George goes up. And that will be the case for as many times as we play that song. I loved him so much as an artist and a friend and as a human being. He made that song something else.
I remember when I was sort of 17, started going to pubs with mates and stuff, and Tiny Dancer would always come on. It's a real sort of arms around shoulders moment for anybody and everybody listening to it. It's still a moment among us as friends, and that's just a great example of what a timeless and brilliant song it is.
Blue jean baby, LA lady, seamstress for the band.
Seamstress for the band. You have a great mental image of who the Tiny Dancer is. The thing about Elton's music is it's so transformative.
You marry a music man.
It's the voice of the soundtrack of my life.
Ballerina, you must have seen her dancing in the sand.
Tiny Dancer. It's going back to that first trip to America. There was something about California that was absolutely magical. It was the promised land. It really was the Garden of Eden. The concept of the British being very stiff upper lip and being a bit more reserved, people were the total opposite there. Especially the girls, you know, there was like, it was whoa, you know.
Tiny Dancer was never a hit when it was originally released as a single. But when Elton finally went onto iTunes, it was the most purchased download. And that is, of course, due to Cameron Crowe's movie, Almost Famous.
It's weird how some songs kind of come back like a song like
Tiny
Tiny
Dancer,
Dancer?
yeah. It's one of those songs that, as I sing it, it gets better and better to me. So it's a pleasant surprise when those things come along.
When I first listened to Tiny Dancer, I was completely blown away. To listen to a song that was made back then and it to feel so present now was completely incredible to me.
Next in our countdown, it's the sweltering hot summer of 1976. And despite a phenomenal songbook throughout the early 70s, Elton still hadn't scored a chart-topping single in the UK. But was all that about to change?
The first Elton song I heard actually was the duet he did with Kiki. And I said, wow, what a cute song that is. Now, who's that girl singing with him anyway? Well, that was not me.
I wanted to write something for her because I loved her, and she was on my record label. I produced her, and she was a dear friend, so that's how that came about.
Here was a track on which Elton would break his usual songwriting tradition. This time, the music came first.
I was actually living in Barbados at the time, and Elton was up in Canada. He called me and said, I've just written this melody that I want to do as a duet with Kiki. He played it to me on the phone, and I just sat down and just wrote the lyrics out, and then I called him back, and that was it.
I got this song through the post. I thought, yeah, this is good. This is bouncy, quite nice. So I put my vocal on and didn't think too much about it, really. And of course, then it was released as a single, and the rest is history.
Nobody told us, 'cause nobody showed us.
Every week you get over 100 singles. So I would listen to every single one, and you're just searching for something great. Well, obviously, I got a bit of a clue because the label said Rocket, Elton John. But Elton John and Kiki T, hello, we'll have a listen to this. And so I was just leading up to leaving Radio 1 and going off to America. It was my very last record of the week. So I picked that one. It was a lovely thing for me and for them, really. My last ever record of the week on Radio 1. Elton's first ever #1.
Why do you think it was that song that got you to #1 in the UK?
Timing. Timing is so, the essence in pop music is timing. It's luck. No, it was a pure piece of pop. There are certain things that when it comes along, you can't stop playing them, and it makes you feel good.
People get snobbish about pop music. Don't Go Breaking My Heart. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's really fun, and it lifted people up. It made life bright.
I'm very proud of it, actually. Yeah, it's really made a lot of people very happy, that record.
We're edging closer to revealing the nation's favourite Elton John song. We're now into the top 5 of our countdown of Elton John classics, and a family favourite that in 1994 brought his music to a whole new generation of fans.
There's a calm surrender to the rush of day, when the heat of a rolling wind can't be turned away.
Was it an ambition of yours to write a Disney classic?
Tim Rice called me one day, and he said, Disney are doing their first original animation movie, The Lion King. They want me to write the lyrics, and they asked me who I wanted to do it, and I said, I would love Elton to do it, and they said, you'll never get him. Well, of course, I was fascinated, and I said, absolutely, I'll do that.
Can you feel the love tonight?
That's one thing I'm, like, eternally jealous of Elton. Like, despite all the other accolades and all the other songs, he wrote The Lion King. That's the coolest thing. And Can You Feel the Love Tonight is a gem. It's a gem.
We always have a table of sandwich making, whatever. And I remember he started writing the song. I got a baguette, cut it in half, and by the time I'd finished making the chicken sandwich, before I'd even eaten it, he'd finished the song. So it was like about 10 minutes.
We went to the studio and he was supposed to be writing songs for the album we were working on. And he said, come and listen to this. And he played it to me and I fell in love with it straight away. It really does capture that Disney feeling.
When I saw the final version of the movie, it didn't have Can You Feel the Love Tonight in it. Jeffrey Katzenberg, who was the head of Disney at that time, came down and showed it to me. And I said, where is Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And he said, we didn't have room to put it in. I said, Jeffrey, every Disney film classically has a love song. And he didn't, to his credit, didn't say, oh, well, too late, hard luck, bugger off. He went back and he found a place to put it in. And, of course, it won the Oscar.
And it won you an army of little fans as well.
Yeah, and it introduced me to a whole new audience. I'm so grateful for that.
Elton played at our wedding. David and I got married in Italy, and he played little sets. He sang your song, fantastic. He sang Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Music comes out of him in a way that people can't help but pay attention to.
Well, a lot of people get married to it, and it's just an incredible thing to be part of the biggest entertainment franchise in history. And it's wonderful.
It's enough to make kings and vagabonds believe the very best.
And at number 4.
We come on to I'm Still Standing. Now, I remember sitting watching Top of the Pops with my sister in 1983, and then the video came on, which is absolutely fantastic. But famously, you don't like making videos.
Videos for me are just a pain in the butt. But I enjoyed making that one because it was Russell Mulcahy. Got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and recorded it on the Riviera.
You can never know what it's like. Your blood like winter freezes just like ice. And there's a cold and lonely light that shines from you. You wind up like the wreck you hide behind that mask you use.
We had 15 dancers. We had Arlene Phillips, choreographer. And we said, okay, we're just going to have fun.
You need to know while I'm still standing, you just fade away. Don't you know I'm still standing better than I ever did?
It's unusual, that video, because you danced in it. And
Yes.
we see you dance occasionally, but you're not famous for your dancing.
No, Arlene Phillips says I'm the worst dancer she ever worked with.
When he saw the energy of the dancers, he just jumped in there. So he was so into it.
By the time we got to the last kind of scene, I was knackered, to be honest with you. And Duran Duran happened to be in the hotel.
We said hello and hang around for a while. And at a reasonable hour, I believe I went home. But it appears that other members of my band and Elton decided they were going to stay up a little later. As the legend goes, Simon decided to deliver a tray of vodka martinis, and Elton rather liked them.
And I said, I'm flagging, guys. What can I do? She said, have a vodka martini. And, you know, I went, yeah, this is fabulous. But I had like 3 or 4 of them, and I can't remember much else. It became a drink of my choice and my downfall, thanks to them.
The song feels like a really personal statement as well.
Everybody has their time at #1, and in the 70s was my day in the sun, where everything that I did got to #1. And I was wise enough to know that that doesn't last. In the 80s, you know, there was new music coming in, punk had happened, And then there was new wave coming in and new romantics. And people thought my kind of music was probably passé. And I'm Still Standing was kind of an anthem.
I'm still standing.
I'm still standing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm Still Standing could have well been, you know, a finger up at the British press. I don't know what was going on in Bernie and Elton's mind at the time. You're sort of fair game if you're in the public eye. But I think both of us now are revered by the press and loved by the British public because we're both a couple of queens. I mean knights.
And your boys love it.
My boys sing it, and I don't know how they know the words, but they do know the words, and they sing it very, very sweetly.
She packed my bags last night, free flight. 0 hour, 9 a.m. And I'm gonna be high as a kite by then.
Rocket Man is probably my personal favourite Elton John song. I remember the first time I heard it and just completely being transfixed by the sound of it.
This lonely outer space.
It's, I think, the perfect combination of Elton's insane chord changes. I mean, the melody is just beyond belief. And Bernie's lyrics, telling a story, but also being so sort of weird in that most wonderful way.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. Touchdown brings me round again to find not the man that think I am at home. Oh, no, no, no. I'm a rocket man.
I got the title from the Ray Bradbury book, The Illustrated Man, that has a wonderful story called The Rocket Man in it. I was visiting my parents in England and driving to their house, and I came up with the first verse. I didn't have anything in the car. There wasn't any paper, any pencil, nothing. So I had to keep it in my head for about a couple of hours. And I remember trying not to forget this until I was able to rush through the front door and go, excuse me, I got to write this down. And yeah, that's how that came about.
And all the science I don't understand. It's just my job 5 days a week.
When I first started to work with Ozzy in '79, he was a huge Elton John fan, huge. And he would say to me, you know, that Rocket Man song, he's absolutely brilliant. He still goes on about it now.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. The touchdown brings me round again to find.
When things hold up for that long and you can still listen to them and say, it's perfect, that's really how I judge songs. It really is very, very special.
It's gonna be a long, long time. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time.
Thank you.
Not many knew him the way that we did.
We're about to reveal the song voted at number 2 in our Elton countdown. A classic track, the beginnings of which were captured in this documentary from 1973.
Elton wanted to make a documentary, and he chose Brian to do it because he thought Brian had the right talent, and I think they just worked together very well. It was to show Elton during a period in his life with the band, to give people a taste of what went on behind the scenes.
Usually we would like to go away and record so we don't have any distractions. And most of our early records were cut in France at Chateau d'Aroville. The chateau was this magical place. We had no clocks, no watches. It was just total joy.
Goodbye, Norma Jean. No, I never knew you.
When they were
shooting in France, Candle in the Wind was first recorded. It was an incredibly moving piece of music, and I think that is why it stood the test of time. It's beautiful.
And they whispered into your brain, they set you on the treadmill.
I remember loving that song as a kid, you know, and the whole connection to Marilyn Monroe.
And it seems to me you lived your life like a candle in the wind. Never know.
The song itself is about fame and what fame can do to you.
And I would have liked to know you, but I was just a kid. The candle burned out long before Legend.
It could have been about James Dean, it could have been about Jim Morrison. Anybody whose life is snuffed out when they are young and beautiful, because they stay in the psyche looking that way forever.
Loneliness was tough, the toughest road you ever played. Hollywood created a superstar, and pain was the price you paid.
I brought my own copy that I bought. It's a picture disc.
Wow.
This beautiful picture on this side. There's you.
Yeah, that's
Just
me,
as
yes.
Mozart.
Well, I did a tour of Australia, and we did a live recording of it.
Seems to me you live your life like a candle in the wind.
So I've had 3 different hits with it. 1 in England with the original from Yellow Brick Road, 2 from the Live in Australia album, and then 3, of course, in 1997.
Goodbye, England's rose, from a country lost without your soul, who missed the wings of your compassion.
The whole Princess Diana moment, I think, was a kind of iconic turning point in Elton John's legacy because she was so loved.
Like a candle in the wind.
You captured the mood beautifully.
It was a moment in time, and you forget how beautiful she was. And having spent time with Prince William and Prince Harry, she was an extraordinary woman, an extraordinary mother. And now I'm a father, I can really relate to how brilliant a job she did with the children.
Did you have any idea the impact it would make?
Only by the sales of the records and the amount of money we raised for her charity. It was astonishing.
Candle in the Wind 1997 remains the highest-selling single in British chart history. And that was Elton's prediction for what would be our #1 tonight. But it looks like there's a song on our list that burns even brighter. From an incredible career, including 7 UK #1s, what's come out on top in our exclusive poll? As we know now, it's not one of these.
Are you ready? Are you ready for love?
Goodbye, Yellow Brick Road.
Don't go breaking my heart.
Saturday night's all right for fighting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think we're ready to reveal what the nation has chosen. Let me see. Oh, it's Mysterious Girl by Peter Andre. I don't like any of your songs.
The year was 1970, and as established acts like Simon & Garfunkel and Elvis Presley battled for the top of the charts, this 23-year-old from Pinner was about to have his very first hit. So, what is the nation's favourite Elton John song?
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah.
You peaked early.
I peaked early, yeah.
Should have really stopped there, shouldn't you?
It's just a phenomena that has just always been there.
It can be from one person to another, from anyone.
Writing a song for somebody and it being the greatest gift that you can give them.
That's the nature of a great pop song. Just gets inside you.
I mean, who doesn't love your song?
It's a little bit funny, this feeling inside. I'm not one of those who can easily hide.
It's really my first wake-up call to Elton and to Bernie, because that's when I really realized, okay, who are these guys? Incredible melody with incredible words.
We both could live was a sculptor.
Did it feel special when you were writing it?
Yeah, Bernie and I were living with my mum and my stepfather, and he gave me a lyric one day. I read it through, and I thought, God, this is an amazing lyric for a kid to have written.
I was a totally naive 17-year-old virgin. I was pretty wet around the ears.
My gift is my song, and this one's for you.
Well, and when you say you wrote it quickly, how quickly?
15 minutes.
Wow.
This is your song.
That was a well-spent 15 minutes.
It was, yes. Instead of going to Sainsbury's that day, I decided to write to that.
I hope you don't mind, I hope you don't mind that I put down the words.
I took rough mixes and I was playing them to people. Everybody got just completely blown away by it.
While you're in the world.
By this time, we were aware that we had a smash hit record. We knew that we had produced something of exceptional quality.
I sat on the roof and kicked off the moss.
To write your first really great song, and for it to be as good a song as that one, it was daunting, because you think, God, how am I going to improve on that?
What kind while I wrote this song?
That was my first memory of him, playing that song. He's written many standards, but that one, you know, it stands the test of time.
So excuse me for getting, but these things I do.
It's a very hard thing, I think, for performers to keep constantly repeating the same songs over and over again, because you think they might lose the magic. But every time Elton goes on stage, you don't get 50%, you get 150%.
Was that the sweetest I have ever seen?
Elton's musical legacy speaks for itself.
He's definitely a page in the history books, which is what any musician wants to be.
He's brought so much joy to so many people for so long, and continues to do it.
It's a different kind of genius that makes Elton.
He's a great source of inspiration, I think, for all of us.
How wonderful life is while you're in the...
I mean, I just don't think he's ever going to stop.
We're going to be doing this again in 20 years.
He truly is one of the most unique artists of all time. And he's one of the most beautiful human beings.
How wonderful life is.
I love the guy. Love you.
When you write a song, you want it to last forever.
Your music will last forever. Thank you so much.
It's a huge honor. Thanks.